Hi, listeners. Just a few thoughts to help you in your way today. One of the very few things of growing old, or one advantage of growing old, is you can look back and get experience of what's happened in the past and maybe learn a few lessons. Now, there's a verse in the Old Testament which I'm very, very fond of, and ministering to people, I often quote this because I think it's very true. It's a promise of God. It's in Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 11. And maybe you probably know it. You can say it along with me. And it's God speaking. He's speaking to you and me. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Wow, can you think of anything more like good news in your life today? God says He knows the plans. He plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. But you might say to me, come on, if you only knew what went on in my life, you wouldn't say that, and I don't believe that anyway. I've had this happen, that happen, all sorts of problems. And yes, we all have. But in Romans 5 verse 3, Paul tells us we rejoice in our sufferings. Well, I have to say that's difficult to understand, isn't it? I was at a Bible study with our vicar some years ago now, and when we read that, he said, "Oh, I don't believe that." I thought, "Hang on a minute, this is the Bible. You're supposed to be an ordained minister. You don't believe the Bible?" And anyway, but I went on to think about it. And actually, if you look at the next few verses, it says, and tells you the purpose of suffering is produces patience and hope and all those wonderful things. You can read that for yourself. And I got to realize I've been working for a missionary organization in what we call the people care team, looking after people. And I come across people in difficulties, and it has been my privilege to minister to them and help them, along with my wife as well, of course. And I suddenly realised I put together a talk to the people in the organisation yesterday, and I said that if this is true that God does have plans for your life, and those plans will come to fruition, then before those plans are put into effect, God's going to train you and prepare you for the plans He has. So let me just say that if God's planning for you to be a special minister to people who are suffering, it may just be that He'll take you through a period of suffering to improve your empathy, and so you know what it's like to suffer. And I remember very well I went through a period of quite a feeling of rejection. I joined a church which on the outside it would look very, very good. It was very welcoming and very, very, very charismatic, and wonderful songs and wonderful sermons by the minister there. But the people, I was like the invisible man. The people didn't talk to me, they didn't reject it. I was on my own, and I thought, what's going on here? Went away for a weekend with them, and again I felt really out of touch with them. Just as if I was invisible. And looking back now, I realise that now I know what it's like to be rejected, be on your own. So whenever I go into a room of people, maybe a social gathering or whatever, and I see somebody standing on their own, I'll go and talk to them. Because I know what it's like to be on your own. And I remember, a little while ago, I was visiting my home church in the UK, and I know a lot of people there, they know me. And afterwards we went for coffee, and people were saying, "Come over here, John, come and sit with us." But I looked along the row of tables, and at the end of the row, there was a man and a woman, a young man and a woman, sitting on their own. I said, "No, I'll go and talk to them." And I'm glad I did, because they're wonderful people. They were both doctors, and one was in general practice, and they were wonderful to talk to. But I just already felt that empathy, and I knew that it was because I had suffered myself of being rejected, being on my own, and I know what it's like. Fortunately, if God's calling you to love people who desperately need love, it may just be He'll bring people along into your life to love you. and to show you how wonderful it is for somebody else to love you and to appreciate you. So if you're going through suffering, if you're going through pain or loss, it may be God telling you to stop. You're going in the wrong direction and wanted to go in another direction. But it may just be that God's preparing you for future ministry and your future plans He has to be a blessing to others, because you know what it's like to suffer. You know how wonderful it is to be loved, so that you can improve your way you love others. Well, thank you. I hope that's some help to you today. Amen.
Amen.